One of the last ones I would like to address, and I will show you a little bit code about that as well, is web services. A number of people have spoken about it in here, and when I mentioned it before, I saw a few eyes going up. Oh, finally you get there. That's the only reason I came here. I wanted to know how to solve my problem with web service. For a start, CIF uses XML over HTTP, as we know, so it's not SOIL, it's not a web service. Not now, anyway. So, at the end, you still want to go in your agent talk to your ESP, because you have to retrieve your data not from the database, but from a web service which returns you the data. So you want to somehow your agent to interact with an ESP. Now the question is, what support do the framework give me? And like the data object manager, you get the same support. Means not out of the box for the frameworks we looked at, but the CI agent, Rob, you've seen, has some level of support to call web services from within his agent. And you've seen in couple examples this morning he's shown us. It has its limits to your complexity and what you can do, but if it's a web service per object, then it will work quite well. If it's more than one web service call for the same object where they rely on each other, when the first web service call returns to something, then you need to call the second web service. That's when that will struggle, because it's just a complexity you wouldn't be able to generically resolve. It's just, there's millions of situations, millions of combinations and all this, so you can't just solve it out of the box like this. Since these ADKs here, including the CIF Common Framework, are based on low-level bits, it doesn't have any direct support built into the frameworks. But that doesn't mean they can't do it. The web service calls, where would I do those? It's in these either or and or. If I have to call web services to retrieve data, it will be the iterator for each object you want to retrieve, you possibly call a web service. Except if you have a web service that returns it a lot, where you might run into trouble again with resource management running out of memory. So I doubt there will be such a web service, they will provide you such. The web service might provide you batches, and you call it multiple times, it gives you 10 each time, and you have to keep track of it. Somehow like this. Whatever the situation is, I mentioned about 3 ways, that's why I have not a generic solution, because I don't know what it is. And I don't know what the web service is you guys have to call. But somewhere in here would be a call to a web service. There, as part of project 1.2, pilot 1.2, which we've done about a year and a half, I actually implemented an agent that had to talk to OTLS, the online teaching and learning system from Oracle. They had a bunch of web services to store student, teachers, courses, offerings, and so on. So I've done that. That run under the pilot project. So the code, which I'm going to show you parts of it, just very basic bits, you can download it. Here is the URL. You can actually go and download the code if you really want to know all the details and look how it's been done. And take that as an example and maybe run with it. That URL is also on the slide, so you don't have to write it down now. You can just continue about or get the slides. Here, conceptually, how that would look like. I mean, it's, again, no rocket science, and you've seen a similar picture yesterday, but it's the publishers or the subscribers who just call some business logic. That's the way I've done it. And underneath is a layer that deals with web services. An API that calls my web services that reside on our ESP and education department in WA. So the agent, you will see, doesn't really do much. The whole complexity is down in my business logic. I didn't expose that to any of the agents. The agent just calls a service and the method, and underneath in that business logic is my web service calls. The reason why I've done that, in theory, there's nothing stopping me to actually, in each object here, write to call to the web service. But if I have a web app that sits outside here, it's not an agent, and that has also to store data or retrieve data, it will go through the same business logic and come back. So that's why the web service layer is down here. So I can reuse that business logic bit in either an agent or a web app or any other thing. So it's just good design to do it really in a business logic layer rather than go a direct web service access all the bits and pieces up here. Access is, for the non-Java people, Access is just a third-party tool you can use to generate clients to web services by providing you a WSDL, and it will generate you all the stubs for it. Then you just call it.